sounds with that.
You were getting 2 sounds?
Yeah, so that music was playing at the same time, not in sync.
It was good on my end. Can you hear me?
I'm getting our conversation. I know I'm getting our conversation like 20 seconds later.
Oh, that's weird. I'm getting us just fine. Is it bad? I don't know what to do, though.
Do you hear it?
No. Well, I don't know what to do because we're kind of like in the loop. We're like, it's happening. It's bothering you a lot. Okay. All right.
Hold on. I just want you to understand. Like you just said, it's bothering you a lot again. Can you hear that?
No.
That's wild. Let's pop Ekuwah on and see if she can hear it.
Okay, we can always restart. Hello, we're going a little bit rogue here for a second.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm actually hearing everything great. I don't have any delay on my end.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave.
Okay.
You can bring me back in, okay?
Sounds good. This is what we get for starting on time.
I get it. Technology is our friend and our enemy sometimes.
It is. We're just showing teaching at its finest, right?
Absolutely. We roll with it.
That's right. And we problem solve when we get through it. Poor Mandi.
That's right.
Mandi, there she is. Fingers crossed.
I figured out what was wrong.
Did you have 2 speakers on?
I didn't. So remember, I went to the episode so I could get Ekuwah's intro, and it was playing in the background. And it's like a 15-second delay.
Oh my gosh, you're cracking me up. That reminds me of like those memes where it's like 15 tabs open and you can't find the sound where it's coming from. That's awesome.
So, hey, good morning. Let me go ahead and just introduce Ekuwah since she's on the screen with us. We've already got this going. So Ekuwah's joined us before, and I'm so excited to have another Doodle and Chat Learns today with her. She's an educator and author who develops and facilitates learning experiences for students, families, and educators. She started her education journey in my state, in Missouri. After graduation, she moved to Las Vegas, where she currently resides, to begin her teaching career as a 5th grade teacher. Since then, she's earned her master's degree in teaching and learning and has authored 2 books, My Name is an Address and Mama's Portraits and Me, The Life, Legacy, and Love of artist Carolyn Coffield Mends, and has served as an instructional coach and program facilitator. Ekuwah loves to share about her family, her history, culture, language, geography, and so much more.
Yay! You're here.
Thank you.
What an interesting start to the show.
Yeah.
That was a first. We'll just mark that off our bucket list of things we didn't think we needed to experience. And now we know.
Now we know.
So you're here with another Learns with us, where we invite previous Doodle and Chat friends or people that we've connected with to come and teach Mandi and I, or Mandi and me, something. And you're back again. You were here last month, right? We did some fun mazes and some paper building. And then this month you're back and you've asked us to bring graph paper, markers, pens, and die or dice. A die or a dice.
Yes.
Or dice and dice. However you want to say it.
However you want to say it. That's a little, previous or before the episode joke we had going on.
Yes,
we're so happy you're here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me back. It's a pleasure to share with you too. And I just enjoy each one of our times together. And today I have brought lots of different things, as you can see. And I would go ahead and get started with you today. I also want to give a shout out. My father's birthday So happy birthday, Dad, if you are watching this episode. Mr. Alvin enjoyed his 72nd birthday, and he is all a part of my story. The two books that I wrote are nonfiction books, and I wanted to start by sharing one of the pages in here, and that kind of gives you the background on me and how I grew up and some things as an educator and a teacher that inspired me. This is one of the pages of the book here. It's L is for legacy. In the evening, Mama and I would paint and craft pictures together. Adding fabric helped make the art look more authentically African. She showed me how to learn from my mistakes and be a creative teacher. Her art is a piece of a colorful legacy. And in the book, it's this first book is a nonfiction book. So I didn't do any of the artwork in here. It's all from my mother. So I grew up in a very artistic household where my mother painted. She was just absolutely incredible with the work that she created. And on my second book, I wanted to point out one more page to you. This book is called Mama's Portraits and Me, as you said in the introduction. And it's all about the portraits my mother created in our life together. My mother was, again, extremely talented. She did commercial art, and there's my dad who celebrated his birthday, and my uncle on this page. As I go through one particular page, I wanted to point out this is one of the last pictures I had with my mom when we were side by side doing an art project together. If you can see the table there. And this picture is my first portrait that I did. Mama encouraged families with young children to explore and create a variety of art forms. As I grew, Mama gave me suggestions and assisted me with my school assignments. She helped me make posters, banners, and even enter in art contests. I always compared my ability to hers. I did not feel confident in my drawing abilities, but I realized that I'm better at making crafts and design work. I have an eye for color, and I'm talented in my own way. So, with that said, I want to share some activities that families, teachers, educators can do together with graph paper today.
I love that. And I would add that, like Mandi and I will speak for Mandi because she's getting her camera ready. I could speak for you. I would say that she and I would both deeply relate to your struggle with, finding value and quality in the things that you produce. It's hard to draw and feel confident in it, no matter what level it is. The power of it, I guess, it is, is where it really comes from. But it's a struggle that I think a lot of creators struggle with, or people that want to share out struggle with.
Absolutely. And when you see people who are extremely talented, and like my mom was commercially trained, trained in college, she studied art. And then when you see yourself growing up, you're kind of like, I can't draw as good as my mom in any kind of way. But we did sit together, and I was very fortunate that I had a mother and father who sat alongside me. And even though I was at a basic level of learning, they were both natural teachers who are always teaching me something and making me feel like I can do it. I might not do it like her, I might do it in a different way, but it still works. And so today, the activities that I want to share with you today are not drawing complicated portraiture, but using art in STEM. And you know how people talk about science, technology, engineering, and math, and some schools call it STEAM, and add the arts in there. Well, there's arts in everything. So whether you add the A or not, arts are an integral part of STEM education. So today we're going to be bringing in the colors and using it in a natural way for families, because we do want everything we as educators share with families to be linked to learning, right? But as Dr. Karen Mapp says, everything we do as educators should be linked to learning. But as Dr. Pashore emphasizes, we want to make sure that what we share is natural, meaningful, and authentic, because we're not trying to make parents into teachers. We want it to come to them naturally and comfortably. So for 7 years, I used to present workshops on the go, sharing with families some things they could do. So I'm going to start the first one with this 1-inch graph paper for our youngest learners, our pre-K students, our 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, students who are just starting with math. And I want to encourage families to, and it doesn't have to be 1-inch graph paper. You can use the graph spiral notebook or any graph paper you have. You can Google and find some 1-inch graph paper or make it at home on the computer if you have it. Many parents are excited when their kids can count to 100. Oh, my kid can count to 100, and they're so excited. Yeah, that's great. But then when you do basic dice activities, you can see where they are with their early numeracy. So one of the activities I like to do with them is just start with a die that has numbers on it. And when you roll, and this is a foam one, you can find dice at all kinds of different places. And I'll share some different ones as we go along. But I like this one in particular with numbers on it. It's a foam one. And you can find, if you're wondering where to find that, this one came from Target. It's called Dice Bonanza. And in Dice Bonanza, there's 60 different types of dice in here, all kinds, and I'll be sharing them with you as we go through today. But if you don't have a dice with numbers on it, you could probably find it at Target if you have Target or other places. You know, obviously you can source these. But okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to roll this. And when I roll this, I want to see if my child or the student can instantly recognize this number. Okay, so, and then when they do, this is how many squares you're going to color. So we can do this together, and you can use any color. I like to do this side by side with a child, have fun, kind of turn it into a game. It's an opportunity for conversation. It's great, especially for kids who are struggling with grief and loss and complicated feelings and emotions as children when we sit side by side and do activities like this. So I'm going to roll the dice, and then you ladies can color some squares. How about that?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I rolled it. What number do you see here?
I see a 5.
Oh, good. So if you'll color 5 squares, and so that gives the adult who is with them or companion with the child to be able to see, does the child understand the quantity of 5? Because we want to start with numbers that are less than 5 first when we're working with them. Yes, they might be able to count to 100, but can they recognize the number 5? Can they draw the number 5? So I'm going to roll again, but this time, because you all are so amazing, I'll roll one more time and see what number do I have now?
A 3.
All right. So you can either use the same color or a different color. Maybe the second person who's playing with the child would go, oh, I got a 3. And then the parent would draw the 3 and play along with them in different colors. You all are doing amazing with your coloring. And now, what number do I have now?
1.
Okay, and you can use a different color if you want to. And I think you ladies would see that over time, the whole paper would be filled. It would be colorful. It would be fun, something fun for them to keep as well. So now I'm going to show the other dice. So let's say I roll this, I roll this, I roll this, and I get this. What number do you see now?
A 4.
Okay, so you instantly recognized it, Carrie. But some children, when they see this, they don't instantly recognize that this is a 4. And you'll see your child go 1, 2, 3, 4. And if they don't instantly recognize it, we do want them to use their fingers. Absolutely. Use your fingers and count. But our ultimate goal is for them to see the number 4, to be able to instantly recognize it, and then to be able to reproduce that through their drawing too. So that kind of tells an adult who's working with a child whether or not they need to go on with what they're working with them. So if I roll this and my child stumbles for a second and can't tell me what this is, and I see my child is doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that tells me that I need to spend some more time with them on just simple dice games, rolling and having them instantly recognize the number before I move on. So as you're doing there so beautifully, Mandy, we roll and we count, and then they draw and they're filling in the papers, which is fantastic. Well done. And again, we can alternate with the adult, with the child, each one of us rolling and counting and coloring. And we're going to do this multiple times. And the best part I like about the graph paper is you can take a graph spiral notebook like this with you wherever you go, in your purse, in your bag, in the car, in the back seat of the car. When you're waiting somewhere at the doctor's office, instead of giving them an iPad, you can do this and easily put dice in your bag. I did that as a parent because I wanted to keep my child engaged. All right, well done with that. Again, the two different types of dice for that. And I'm using really big ones for the sake of the camera. So now, would you ladies mind to write the numbers 1 through 6, something like this, in your squares?
Here, let's show everybody your paper. Okay.
And it can be in any kind of order. Just do that several different ways. Again, this is for our youngest learners who are just starting, our 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, and even older children. We still have students in elementary school who do not have their early numeracy in place yet. So this is great for them. Good job with writing it. And you can change the order around so each row is different. Oh, good job, Carrie. I like how the second row starts with the number 5. And Mandy's doing it in a different way of toggling the paper. And that's why I'm purposely having you to write it this way, because I want families to know that they don't have to print worksheets at home. You can easily create your own things. And this time of year is wonderful for this because wrapping paper, at the back of wrapping paper, some, not all, but the back of wrapping paper usually has squares or grids on it. So if you want to do this in a bigger way, you can, of writing the numbers in those squares on the old wrapping paper before you throw it in the trash and have a little bit of fun. We're going to do the same thing now with our 2 different types of die.
Oh, I like it.
I'm going to start with the first one with numerals on it. So when I roll this number, then you're going to go to that paper and you're going to color in that square. So what number did I roll this time?
I'll say, because Mandy's numbering 4.
Yes. So you can either have them find 1 4 or all the 4s that you put on the paper and then color in that particular square. And then again, like I said, this is an opportunity to add some color to your child's life, make math fun and exciting.
Now, if you thought this out in advance, you could almost, like if you were creating this yourself, you could almost make like a color by number.
Yes.
With it, like you could have the design set up for them and have a color by number with it. So that
absolutely, that's a great connection.
Well, and this reminds me, because you always get those social media feed, ads, and there's a game that's like this I've seen that I remember because I bookmarked it. But I bet you there's somewhere out there's some kind of game where if you put all these numbers on there and then we roll the dice, we color them in as we go, or so if it was 4, I could color in 2 and 2, or I could color in 4, and then whoever has all their colors done first kind of wins the game. So it's really making some math fun spin in my head. I'm sure there's a game out there that somebody's already created, but I'm definitely going to search for it after we're done here, because I'm loving this idea, this concept of taking it just one more level up with like an adding component to it, and working on some of that automaticity with my students.
I'm so glad you said that, because you are absolutely right. Those were fantastic extensions. And again, like we talked about last week, me as the educator facilitator, I want to give you something to spur ideas to keep you going. So the sky is the limit with the innovations that are possible. And then I want to tell you about, what to look for when you are working with a child at this stage. Again,
Absolutely.
if they're using their fingers, that tells you keep doing these, keep doing these. Don't stop. You're in the right activity because they need to be able to look at this and say 3. And if they can't, keep doing these different things in different ways. So I'm glad you saw the different ways, Carrie. Excellent. Yeah. So we'll color the 3 there.
So Mandy, when you say color by number, would you have made it like a step further and used like the dice to do the color by number, like for a fun element of it?
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking?
Yeah. So I would have already designed the picture and had the 6 different colors.
Uh-huh.
And then every time you rolled, what you were saying, you could color the 6, you could color, like if you're adding, you could do a 4 and a 2, but each roll you can color in what adds up to that. And
I like that. And then it would become a picture.
And it would become a picture. Yes.
I like that.
I like that. So speaking of adding, we in Las Vegas, since when I was early in my teaching, we used to be able to go to the casinos and they gave us teachers free dice, lots of dice. And so that was great because I like to be able to send the students home with the things that we talk about or the families in the workshops. I want to give it to them so they can immediately replicate that. And so, yes, you're absolutely right, Carrie. The next step after the child can do 1 die, then add 2 and have them add and then do the same thing that we just did with that. And then when they're done with 2, add 3 die to that.
Oh, I like that.
Again, this is great because we are concerned with students who are not automatic with their basic facts, right? And we want them to be able to add within that number 10 so they can do that efficiently and quickly and not use all their brain power on doing that. So yes, go to 1 die, then 2 die, and then 3 die. And then the fun die that are in the Dice Bonanza, go beyond that number 6. Go to dice that are like this, like a decahedron die or a 10-sided die. This is an 8-sided die. The students love that. Again, I got these out of the Dice Bonanza that you can find at Target or online, I'm sure. And then this is another fun one that we got one time. This is called Dice in Dice. And this is a dice, and then inside of it, there's another little die.
Stop it.
Too. So when you roll this one, you get 2 numbers that you can add together and do.
I have never seen that. Dice and die.
So I think I saw mine at like a bookstore. Because bookstores will have some of those novelty things, and I think I saw that in a bookstore. I wanted to go back too because we don't all live in Las Vegas. So we don't always have those casinos right there, but we have in my town, we have a riverboat casino and they donate their dice and they donate cards.
Oh,
so they have a hole, they drill a hole right in the middle so that nobody tries to bring them back into the casino. And then they just donate them to the schools. And so we have just an endless supply in my town of cards because the casino donates the cards and the dice to the schools.
Nice.
That is fantastic.
And I will add too that sometimes, finding the number die might not be easy for a family, but just a piece of paper taped on over with the number written on it can be like a quick fix on the regular, your traditional die. And I will say, if people wanted to take it a step further, I have been able to find also, if somebody wanted to invest in it, you can find dry erase dice.
Yes. Well done, ladies. Absolutely. There are so many out there. You're absolutely right.
So, Ekuwah, you were talking about taking this, like when you traveled, you could take a spiral notebook with you. On your phone, you can also if you have internet access, you can also have online dice. And there are some that just have numbers instead of dots.
Oh, nice.
So you can just put it up on your phone and then show them the picture like when it rolls.
Yes.
So,
and they have a lot of tell me fast or quick images for sabotaging that include dice for that exact thing. Can you tell me within 3 seconds what this dice is? And they flash.
Oh,
I love it. So this is an example of, if we can take it a step higher now, to multiplication for our third graders and above, and third graders who are working, or third grade, we introduce multiplication to them. Of course, in second grade, we introduce repeated addition, but third grade, we can start the area dice game. And if you can see this is an actual area dice game I did with my own daughter. I used to carry this exact thing. She's 17 now, but when she was in third grade and even fourth grade, and I wanted to help her with her basic multiplication, I carried this with me. And so with multiplication, we want to see if they can do rows of. So with my 2 die, when I roll, this time, I'm going to start with a smaller one. Can you show me 3 rows of 3? 3 rows of 3. So we want to show them the meaning of the multiplication symbol, because many times we say times, and we want to give them meaning behind, what does times mean? What does 3 times mean? 3 rows of 3. Nice. And then for it to go in another part of the brain, on top of that, if you have maybe a black pen or marker, if you can actually write the multiplication for me. So 3 rows of 3, what would that look like with numbers? Could you write that on top? Yeah. And what does that give us? What is 3 rows of 3? What is the product? Nice. And so we would do that over and over again. We didn't fill ours in, as you can see on this example. We just kept doing it over and over and over to fill the page. And mathematician Dr. Joe Baylor, I'm not how to say her last name, Bowler. She talks about race to 100, where you can have 2 people play this at the same time to fill the page again with 2 different colors. You can also fold the paper in half. One person starts on one side, one person starts on the other, to see who finishes the full page. Just another way of sitting side by side with our child, turning it into a game, adding a little arts to it, having a little bit of fun with it as well. So who finishes the page first, or you can do it in that way as well.
I like it.
Thank you. And
I also could see, like, if you wanted to scaffold that a little bit for students, or even with your own child, you can have some squares pre-filled in or pre-outlined, and then the kid would have to find it, or things could be pre-filled in so that the paper was less overwhelming as a whole. So you could have certain facts pre-filled in. That would be a way that I could see scaffolding it for some children.
You are absolutely right. Absolutely. And those, again, we also use those for quick images too, or tell me fast. If I show you this many squares, figuring it out. And then multiple ways of figuring it out too. So if we did another example, and also don't forget, you can bring in the decahedron dice when your child has the numbers through 6 solid, then you can go up to the dice that has the 9, the 10, the 8, and some of those other numbers too. So let's try one more. Let's say that I give you, for small sake, 3 rows of 5. 3 rows of 5. I like your pink color that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you two will notice when you're finished here, if you notice, you both drew it in a different way with different colors, which is great. And you showed the rows. And I think it's important to point out, both of you understand what rows mean, and some people don't. So we want to clarify that for our students too. What does 3 rows versus 3 columns mean? Because they are 2 different things. And there's two different ways you could. Exactly. You just did it, Carrie. You turn the page. That's right. Because that would be 5 rows of 3. And that's how, again, you can show the child that 3 rows of 5 and 5 rows of 3 give you the same thing. So when you understand inverse operations, then that reduces the number of things you have to memorize. Because, we have so much brain capacity, but when we make those connections, then that really helps us. I might know the inverse, and that might help me. So good. 3 rows of 5 and 5 rows of 3. Well done. Awesome job. Yay. Okay, so let's move on for our older students. This is so funny because I don't know if this was coincidence or what. I happened to notice as I was planning this for us today, my daughter, who is now 17, has a TikTok that she does. And she has been into something called pixel art. Have you all heard of the trend of pixel art with teenagers?
It's trending?
Well, in her world, it's trending. So,
that's awesome.
I guess so. So with pixel art, this is an example. This is her Pikachu that she did recently, and let me keep going. She did the word reindeer and pizza. This is my daughter's notebook. I'll say that again. These are not mine. She did a dolphin and this.
Mandi, see, you've been cool for years and you didn't even know it.
So I do pixel art using spreadsheets. And so I do it a lot of different ways. It's one of the first ways that I teach students how to use conditional formatting in a spreadsheet. But then I also make review games where as they answer the questions correctly, the pixel art starts to form on the page. And so I actually utilize that in my math classroom a lot of different ways. Spreadsheets are a very important skill.
Yes.
That's something that jobs want people to know how to do. And so that's one of the first introductions to spreadsheets is making pixel art.
I love it. So feel free to jump in, Mandi. With her, she plans hers. If you can see this planning page here, she plans it with the colors and she writes what color she's going to do. So she has blue, black, red, whatever. She puts that in there before she goes back. So she kind of has a system for it. So I did something like this at the beginning of this year with my own students in elementary school, where I had them do pixel art first with anything that they wanted. But I said it had to be less than 100 squares that they were using, not the full page like this. And then I tied it to fractions in elementary school. So I said, what fraction of this piece of pizza is red? So let's say that it's 100 squares. What'd you say?
It makes me so happy. I love it.
Oh, good. So with this, I would say, what fraction of this pizza is red? And then obviously they would have to count. So for sake of example, there's 4 and 4 and 3. So I know 4 and 4 is 8, and 8 plus 3 is 11. So 11 out of 100 are red. And then they would write the fraction. So I wanted them to see the out of for fractions, and then I wanted them to write it in the correct way as well. Then we took this pixel art and turned it into perler beads. The melty beads?
Fun. Yep.
So this was their design plan because I currently teach engineering. So I had them do their design plan before they did it. They had to show me the fractional part, and then they could build it, and then I would iron it and melt it and let them take home their actual piece of pizza. So that was like a low budget 3D printing.
100%.
Yeah, right? Of bringing their design plans to life. And so I think that is fantastic. Again, with the dolphin, I would do fractions again. What fraction of the dolphin is black, and then they would have to count. But the students are amazingly creative. And like I said, this isn't just for elementary students. My daughter, who's a senior, is enjoying this now. You can see her on TikTok at Nana_6793. Plugging her TikTok channel because she's on it. But again, fractions, perler beads are great. But just carrying this notebook around with you again as a parent is fantastic for your child to incorporate some math in there, fractions, and as Mandi gave you some even more wonderful examples too. All right, are we ready for our next one?
Yes.
So back to my notebook that I used to carry with me. Unfortunately, as I mentioned in my second book that I told you, Mama's Portrait to Me, my mother had multiple sclerosis, and she had it very serious, like intense. And the last 17 years of her life, she was bedridden, unfortunately. So there are many summers that my children and I would go and sit alongside her bedside, and I took my graph spiral notebook. So this is an exact example of my daughter and I playing this together. My mother's favorite game is Scrabble, and so is mine. And portable Scrabble you can do with a notebook. So I want you to start and you can play this with 2 players or 3 or how many ever people you want to play with. Each person needs a different color to represent. Each letter that you put down in our world was 1 point. But of course, I created this, so you can make it 5 points if you want to, if you're working on adding 5s or whatever. So in the middle of the page, start with a word. And with me, any word goes, unlike Scrabble. You can use proper nouns. You can use any word that comes to your mind that you think will fetch you the most points. And you can write that word vertically or horizontally. So ladies, feel free to pick a word and I'll build on it.
I would say, Carrie, you go first, and then
Okay.
I will write it down too, and then we'll just play off of
Fun.
the same one. And
fantastic.
I don't know why that word came to my head. Did I spell it right? Because I'm a terrible speller too. I didn't spell it right, did I?
I think spaghetti has an H, does it?
SPAGHETTI.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Well, we can Google it, but
no, it's fine. No, it's fine. You're right, it does. Okay. There we go.
No problem. And that's the beauty of this, because that's what it's all about, is learning, right? And we all have different things that we are good at. So with spaghetti, why don't we build off of it? And I'm going to do the word, for the sake of being the child in the room, I'm going to build off the word tea. And I'm going to do teacher.
Which T? First one or second one?
The first one. Now, we're not keeping score because we're just having fun. But for those competitive people in the room, each letter is 1 point.
Did I do it wrong?
No, she said for the competitive people in the room. And that's when I was like, Mandi's keeping score.
It's fine.
Mandi, your turn.
See, I was more worried about writing these words down. So, so off of the G, let's do gelato.
Ooh. What color are you using? Blue?
Yeah, kind of a green color, I think. It's GELATO, correct?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
If you say so.
Yeah.
That's how I spelled it. So
I don't think I've actually even tried that.
Oh.
And that's where this conversation can build too, by asking each other questions and learning about the words they choose and why.
Frozen custard is actually my favorite, but gelato is a close second. So.
Well, I'm really liking this too because having to think differently about the students that I work with this year. We do a bell ringer, and then I've noticed that I have to infuse some kind of mini game in my lesson plans to really build up some confidence and give myself an opportunity to give them a lot of positives first before we enter into any lesson, which is kind of a backwards way of thinking about adding brain breaks and things. And this game is I love this idea for them. This is going to get their brain thinking. There's no really wrong answers, because if I'm the one spelling, they don't have to know how to spell it. They can just tell me where to put the word. I could also see, like, once they get good at this, you could start to categorize this. So only things in a house that could go on this. But I really love this idea, even for a classroom, kind of just like get yourself thinking about things, or get kids thinking about words.
Another fun thing to do would be to, like, you have to roll the dice and you have to come up with a word that's that many letters.
Oh, that would be really hard.
Wow.
Or at least that many letters you could do too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was a 5. So you would need a 5-letter word or more.
Oh my goodness. Challenging. Yes, absolutely. And again, I think as educators, it's important that we show things that are open-ended, that can be branched out into all kinds of amazing ways and get people's brain going with ideas. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I also love to how you encourage these kind of activities to be portable with families. I'm almost also, this reminds me a little bit of the license plate game that you play when you're traveling. So if you're sitting at the doctor's office or at a restaurant, you could write restaurant in the middle, and then you could search the space. The kid could do that. And then you could also include non-spellers in this too, because the adult could do the writing for them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is really fun. I love this.
You're talking about vocabulary. You're talking about sounds. So we need something that starts with P. What sound does that letter make? Now, do you see anything that makes that sound?
Nice.
You have got my wheels turning. I also love to do, like, if you're done activities, having them on my board, I could see writing a word of the week on the board, and kids could just come up and start adding it during passing period or downtime. That could be super fun.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Wow.
I know. You've got my mind going.
Oh, that's fantastic. Because there are endless possibilities, right? And I think as we teach educators and families, keep it simple, keep it basic. A piece of paper can be a springboard to all kinds of powerful learning experiences that are natural, authentic, meaningful, as Dr. Pashore says, that are fun, and they don't really cost, other than the, graph spiral notebook you can get for, $1 or $2 at most places, but you could print it online, or you could create your own, or use wrapping paper like we talked about. So,
and you can also get like smaller ones. So this is graph paper. I know you can't see it very well.
Let's see.
This is a smaller graph paper notebook.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
That would fit in your purse.
Yes.
And so, and I just got these off of Amazon because graph paper is my paper of choice. As a teacher, I just prefer to write on graph paper.
Wow.
So, but that would fit, if you just want to toss it in your purse, that would fit better. So,
right. And I think this is great for building literacy. I like the idea of even starting with just a letter, all words that begin with P.
I was just thinking that about my board thing. I was thinking about, like, coming up with a fun name about, like, a letter streak. So you write the letter on the paper, and then the kid could sit and think and see how many letters they could build, like, just as like a filler activity, like a waiting activity in a classroom. I was thinking that the letter of the week could be this, and you could do that letter so many times because the kids might want to continue to see if they could beat their streak. I cannot wait to try this next week.
Oh, wonderful. I'm so excited. I'm so happy to hear that, ladies, because you all are so amazing with your ideas. And that gives me goosebumps to say, like, I enjoy planting seeds, right? And then seeing the seeds just blossom in different ways with how people have done things. So amazing. Sky is the limit with that. So this is an early literacy. Should we continue on with another literacy one?
I love it. I've got like 2 Post-it notes going. Like, let's keep the list of ideas that you're giving me growing. I love it.
Wonderful. That is awesome. Okay, so the next next one with another math connect. Oh well, as I'm flipping in this notebook, graph spiral notebook again of things that I did with my daughter, I turned to this page. This is not one I was going to share with you today, but I'm seeing that she also practiced her decimal work of adding numbers. With
And
that, I think that was
lined up.
something we were
Yep.
working with, and this is great for decimal action. Yeah. So the next one that I was thinking about is kind of in line with my book. If you'll turn to a clean piece or another part of the paper, and this time we're going to draw a timeline. Okay, so if you'll just draw a line with an arrow on both ends so we can create a timeline. And this can be done with words or pictures. And on this timeline, if above the line, you'll draw in the far left-hand side of the timeline, a little right above the points of your arrow, if you'll draw a heart at the top of the timeline. Yeah. And then below it, in that same spot, but below it this time of the arrow, I want you to draw a broken heart. And when we talk about one of the workshops that I do with families around my second book, Mama's Portraits and Me, is about grief and loss. And in life, in children's life too, and I have to tell you, this week was really emotional for me because I found out some really heavy stories about the children that we work with and some of the things that they're going with and the things that they've lost in their life. And working with them, behavior is communication. And so I think it's important to have tools in our toolbox for working with children and families who are going through some really tough things that we can never possibly imagine. Some of us haven't had to experience. But in my book, the second one, I talked a lot about the things I went through with my mom, and I gave dates and things like that. So you could go through this book and actually create a timeline of the dates that I included. But with you all today, and to show extensions on how other people can use this, I want you to think about the earliest things. And of course, this is on YouTube Live. So feel free to share what you feel comfortable with. This isn't supposed to be trauma on display. And this is not supposed to be you putting your deepest, darkest things that you don't want anyone in this world to know. Just what you feel comfortable with sharing is what I always tell people. Like, I'm not trying to pry. You can go deeper on your own time in your own space and the privacy of your own home. But for the sake of this, I want you to think of some events that gave you so much joy at the top of the line, and maybe some things that you're processing that maybe broke your heart below the line, and then do that as you would a timeline. So you would include the date if you happen to remember that. So that way you can practice your sequencing too. You can do this with a story or a book, like my book, for example, or not just mine, but there's lots of stories out there that you can use this for, with political figures, historical figures, celebrities, or whatever, who put out their biographies. You can use those for. And then you would just have the child put the date on the image above it. So if they're pre-writers, you can have them draw the picture of the things that were happy. So maybe like the birth of someone, or you adopted a pet, or you were able to win an award, or you traveled somewhere. Those would be your happy joy memories at the top. And then below the line, maybe some things that brought you sadness, you could draw a picture of. So for example, if you lost a pet or you lost a loved one, if you felt like including that, you could. Or like me, the day you found out you were allergic to shrimp. That was a very sad day. And avocados and a few other things. My body changed, and that was a very sad day for me because my body didn't respond to it well anymore. So I would definitely include that on the day my heart was broken, because I used to really like shrimp, but now it does not like me. So I would include that, a little piece of shrimp on my timeline in the time that I found out. And I might not know the exact date, but I could include that too. right? So I'll give you two a second if you want to add one or two things that you don't mind sharing with us. And again, art therapy is really great for children. It's great for everyone. All of the activities that we did today are opportunities to express ourselves in a different way, besides just talking. Some people are able to express more through the arts. And then whatever you draw can lead itself to conversation as well. I think that looks like, is that, well, I don't want to guess. It's never good to guess because
It's not.
no, it's better to just ask. Mandy, what did you draw first?
So those are Mickey Mouse ears.
Oh, it does look like that.
So I come from a broken family, and I was not super close with my paternal side of the family. But when I was 10, my paternal grandparents wanted to have a bonding experience, and they took me to Disney World. So
Oh, fantastic.
it was I think the first trip I had ever taken.
Mm,
And I got to spend some time with my grandparents that I didn't know very well. So yeah,
right.
it was
That's wonderful. Have you been back since?
I have. Yes.
Oh, that's
I have.
awesome. That's awesome. And we always want to ask a follow-up question to whoever we're working with to show the person or the child that we are listening and that we do care. We care enough to ask and find more detail about what they're doing. And Carrie, I see you are doing what looks to me like, and I'm not supposed to guess, but this looks really clear to me, like a car with luggage on top.
I have very fond memories of the road trips that my family took when before my parents were divorced, which was later on in my life, but I have extremely fond memories of road trips. And even now, my children prefer, road trips over anything. We are big let's go for, well, the pandemic helped that. Let's go for a car ride.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to deflect to my story. I want to stay focused on what you're saying, but I also want you to know I can connect with you. In my nonfiction book, I talked about a road trip on this
Aw.
page, and this is me when I was young, and this is the car we had at the time. And this was when my mom met her father, excuse me, for the first time. And this was our road trip that we took. If you can see all the states, we went through 11 different states. And my mom did this. This is from our scrapbook. And so I do remember road trips too. And I think a lot of people connect with those experiences, Carrie.
Thank you.
Yes. So do you see the connections for this? And the reason we do it on a timeline like this, and we want to talk with families and children, is that grief is part with us, right? It's not something that goes away. We grow with it. And with time, it hits us like a wave at different times, our emotions. Sometimes we're great, and sometimes we have things that trigger us, but it goes on for the rest of our life, and we learn to live with it, and we learn to springboard into all kinds of different things because of it. Losing my mom was horrific for me. It was really sad. And, going through all that, but finding creative outlets in which to express ourselves and our emotions and to process that with other people is so healthy and good for us. And that's why we want to do this with a timeline, letting them know that, yeah, this is going to continue. You're going to have happy moments. You're going to have sad moments. That's what makes life interesting and difficult at the same time.
Agreed.
Do either one of you want to share any of your other things that you have there? All kinds of great symbols.
Well, I didn't make it very far. I kind of stopped, but my next happy moment was when I went to college. I was the first person in my family to go to college, so it was kind of a big deal. I actually got married while I was in college, and so that's the next one. I
The
just
wedding rings?
2 circles for wedding rings.
Mm-hmm.
And then after graduating, I had my first child, and I would have kept going with that.
Yeah.
And at the bottom, a lot of my grief as a child was the loss of grandparents because my mom was a single mom for a long time. And the role that my grandparents had in my life was important. And so that was some of the loss that I experienced. And I know, like, I would know what this is. It looks like a bean. It's actually a rubber band. I think I've shared this story with Carrie before. My grandpa always read the newspaper, and he took the rubber band off the newspaper and rolled it onto his wrist. And then he didn't take it off until he was done with the newspaper, and then he put it in his drawer. Weird routine that he did every single time. And so to represent him, I put a rubber band.
Can I stop you there for 1 second?
You bet.
I think that that is incredible. I could even see a picture book called The Rubber Band. And, you know, the thing is, the best stories are the stories that come from the heart. And you could take that one thing, and I know that if I asked you to do a quick write, you could just pour that whole story onto a piece of paper, right? And that's what we want our children to be able to do, our students, anyone who's developing their writing skills, is think about what are the stories that are personal to you that you could just go into detail about. I can totally see the visual of your grandfather. I have never met him. I never saw him to do it, but the way you just described it and the detail and the visual that you gave us, I could see that. I could illustrate what you're saying. And I think that's the beautiful thing about storytelling. And that's why I chose the 2 nonfiction, why I wrote the 2 books that I did the way I did, because it was personal to me. And I think that that is amazing how we all have different stories and memories that unite us, and learning from each other is just such a beautiful and valuable thing.
It is. Wonderful. So does this bring us to the end of our Learns with you, Ekuwah?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes. Absolutely. I've had an amazing time with both of you, and I can't thank you enough for the invitation to come back on your platform. And I applaud you both for the work that you're doing as educators. And, you know, the juggling act of being an educator and doing this on the side is not an easy thing. And I applaud you both for your time and your commitment to sharing and giving others ideas. And I'm honored to be able to support you on this pathway, and hopefully someone, parent, child, educator, whoever may be listening, I hope we together have given them some ideas for inspiration. And your springboard of connections just filled my heart. You all are so creative, and I love the collective idea sharing. It's just amazing. So
it is inspiring. That's one of my favorite things to do, is just to sit and idea talk with people. It's really wonderful when you take a time to listen, like you said. People have stories and information that's can connect with all of us. That's what makes conversations powerful. And, you know, we're just so happy that you were here with us again. I think you're joining us again next month. Yes.
Yeah, we have one more scheduled, and I'm super excited to see where we go.
We're excited too. If friends were here and they're joining us live, or they're here later, Mandi and I always love to see all the fun that people have with us, whether it's a Doodle and Chat with Friends or a Doodle and Chat with Learns. We'll be sharing pictures of our experience out for others to see. I cannot wait to try these ideas next week. The dice one will have to take some time just to marinate a little bit, but that letter one is happening next week.
Yay!
In my classroom.
Absolutely. And, you know, that's how it works, right?
So excited.
Choose what works for us, and everybody's story is so unique. So wonderful. Thank you again.
You're welcome. And then friends who are with us, you can join us. We're taking a break next Saturday because we're getting close to the Christmas holiday for people who celebrate that. So there will be no Doodle and Chat next week. That also means we're getting very close to winter break, which makes me very excited. But friends can join us back here December 30th when Mandi and I Zentangle and chat all about winter. So that will be super fun and very calming, and just the perfect way to end December. So thank you again, Ekuwah. We'll see you again in January, and we'll see all of our Doodle and Chat friends back here on Saturday, December 30th at 9:33 Central Standard Time. Have a great holiday, everybody. Bye,
guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.